Good morning friends, welcome to DBMS class, and today in this class I will start new subject, that is database management system. The expand form of DBMS is database management system. Okay, this is a paper 1. So paper 1 subject is DBMS and paper 2 subject is Java. So today I am going to start a new subject, that is database management system. So let us discuss first topic, that is introduction to database. So let us before discussing about the different topics in DBMS, so let us know what you mean by database and what do you mean by data. So we already know about data. So what do you mean by data? So data is a raw fact. So this raw fact may be a text, or it may be image, or it may be a video, or it may be a anything. So that is called as a data. So data is a raw fact. So in this subject we are going to deal with a database. So database means, so database is a collection of a logically related data is called as a database. Collection of logically related data is called as what? That is called as a database. So let us consider one example. If we have a telephone dictionary, in that case that dictionary contains a country code, after that area code, after that it contains a information, it contains a phone number, after that owner of the phone, and after that it may contain information about a service provider. Okay, so that means that dictionary contains the information about, totally information about the phone numbers. Okay, that means those all data are logically related. That's why that is called as a logically database or a phone database anta helbodu. Okay, so database means logically related data is called as a database. So let us take one more example. If we have a student database, so student database may contain the information about the student, like student name, student register number, student age, and student date of birth. So including this, if I included the one more information about the students, like a salary, but salary is not related to student. In that case, these all information or data are not logically related. So in that case, we can't call that is a student database. So when all the data which are present in that database, which we grouped in the data, those must be related logically. In that case, that whole database is called as a database. So you can also take one more example, like a university database. So in that case, it may contain a college information, it may contain a course offered, it may contain a faculty's information. Okay, so that is called as a university database. So in this case, those particular data can be called as entities. A particular data in like a faculties ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅವನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ entities ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. So we can establish a relation between these entities, such as a students enrollment in the courses. That means particular students may take a enrollment in the course. In this case, the relationship between the student and the course is called as a enrollment. Okay, either you can establish a relationship between the faculty entity and the course by using the relationship teaching. That means particular faculty or a particular teacher teaches a particular subject. In that case, teaches or teaching is a relationship between the faculty and a course. That means these all data are logically related. That's why this is called as a database. Okay, so let us see what are our goals in this chapter, or what we are going to discuss in this chapter. Okay, so in this chapter we are going to I will give introduction to design and use the database, how to design and how to internal working of a database, and how to manage the database system. Okay, so in this case, understanding the relational model. See here, in the database management system, we are storing the data in the form of a tables. Okay, so in the database management system, we are storing the data in the form of a tables. Those are called as a relation. Our tables ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ relation ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. Don't confuse between a relation and relationship. I will tell in the upcoming classes what are the difference between the relation and relationship. But for now, you have to remember that in the database management system, we are calling tables as a relation. Okay. So in this class, we will see what is the relation model, or what are the algebra. So data is represented as a set of a dimension tables. So that means dimension means tables are having a dimension like a row and column, and what operations can be manipulated on the tables we will discuss. And we are using a one language that is called as a SQL language or a programming language. SQL means structured query language. So this is a language or a programming language that is used to manipulate the data stored in the database. And we will see what are the commands which are present in a SQL and how to write the query to access the information stored in the table or a database. And we will see how to design and how to build that real database for a real world application. Real world application means how to design a database for the, like a example for, let us take example for bank or for college or for university or for any other real applications. How to design the database, we will see. Okay, so for this subject you can take a reference book like a book, database management, written by Slib or HF Code. You can refer this book, or you can also refer one more database management system written by Navate or Ramesh Alamsari or Navate 6th edition reference book. You can also refer. You can also refer this book. This is a very best book for your examination or for any competitive exams like NEET or NET or GATE exams. Okay, or any other interview, companies interview kodbekagiತ್ತು ಅಂತ, this is one of the best book to get a knowledge about a database management system. So see this slide. So here I listed some reference book. You can refer this book. So in the traditional systems, we can store the information or we can store the data in the form of a files. We already saw this in a previous semester, like storing any information in a Word file or a text file or in a note file. So this is also a storing of a information or storing of a data. Then why we need to use a database management system? Okay. So in the file system, we can store the information, but when it comes to access or when there is a need of updation information or updation of data in the file system, it will become a very complex, or it will take us so many time to alter the data stored in the file management system. But when we use a database management or a database, in that case it reduces the accessible time, and you can update the data as and when required, or you can retrieve the data, or you can manipulate the data. But one more difference in a file management is, so if you want to access the data stored on the file, in that case you must know the location of the file. Okay, but if you want to access the data stored in the database, you need not to know the location of the file. So let us take one example. For example, if you are performing any operation on the file by writing a C program na barudu yavade one file operation ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಡಿ. In that case, we have to pass a file name with the location as an argument to the open command. In that case, you can open the file and perform a required operation on the file. But when you want to access the data stored on the database, let us take a Flipkart or Amazon. So Flipkart, Amazon or IRCTC, that is railway website. So all these are example for a database management system. So let us take one example, that is a Flipkart. So in the Flipkart, if you want to purchase any item, you need not to know the location of the item or location of the computer. Directly you are going to select on one item and you are going to order. We need not to know any other locations of a particular item or a particular information about the computer. So that is the main difference between the file management and the database management system. So in the database management or in the database, it is going to work in the client and server architecture method. ಯಾವ basis ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ work ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ client and server architecture basis ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ database work ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. That is sitting on a one place, we can access the data stored on the another place. That is called as a client and server architecture or a remote accessing. That is called as what? That is called as a remote accessing. ನೀವು ಒಂದು ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಬೇರೆ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಕೂತು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಒಳಗಿರುವಂಥ ಡೇಟಾನ ವಿತ್ ಸರ್ವರ್ ಥ್ರೋ ನಾವು ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ವಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ರಿಮೋಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ದ advantages of the database system: storage persistence, that means you can store a huge amount of data in the database. But when we compare it to file, we can store a less data as compared to the database. That is a main advantage of the database. And we don't need to any specific programming interface, and we can also manage the transaction. That is deleting, updating and modification of the data stored on the database is called as a transaction model. Okay, transaction management. Okay, we'll see. So in this database management system, we are going to learn some terms of a database management system. Those are like data model, database languages, and DBMS architecture, and components of database system, and user classification. All these concepts we are going to learn, or we will know what are the main terms which we are going to use entire these subjects. So these are very important terms. I am going to use these terms repeatedly throughout this subject. Okay. See here I am displaying some screenshots of websites like Amazon. So, but see, all these are arranged in a tables. It may not look you like a table, but all the data are displaying here, like all the data are displaying in the form of a table. So these are the column and header, and this is a one column, and this is another column, and this is a again another column. Everything is arranged in the form of a tables. That is called as a relation or a database, Amazon database. Okay, and see here one is a insurance plan. So again one insurance plan database is there. Again all the data are displaying in the form of a tables. See here, even though maps, that is Google map. Okay, so even though all the locations information about the locations which is stored in the Google map, that is also stored in the form of a database or in the form of a table. And see here I am displaying the our RCU website, screenshot of RCU website. See everything information about information, administration, academic, research, admission, examinations. So all these information are stored as stored in the form of a tables, and this is a university database. Okay. So if you want to make any alteration or any updation or any deletion, it will become very easy when we store the data in the form of a database. Okay. So see, in the traditional database the data stored in the form of a textual or a numeric value. Okay, ಟ್ರೆಡಿಷನಲ್ ಡೇಟಾಬೇಸ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತಿತ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಯಾವ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಐದರ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಫ್ ಅ ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಆರ್ ಎ ನ್ಯೂಮರಿಕ್. But in the first few years, because of advanced technology, we have led existing new applications of the database system, like database may contain or store images, audio clips, and video streams digitally. So these are called as a new advancement in the database. Okay, and these multimedia components become very important for the database. So let us take one example, that is a geographic information system, that is GIS. The expand form of GIS is geographic information system. So this system or this application stores and analyzes the maps and weather data and satellite images. And so one more example is a data warehouse. The collection of data or a storage of data is called as a data warehouse or online analytical processing. So these are used by many other companies to extract and analyze the useful business information for a huge large database. See here. Here again I am displaying one screenshot of IRCTC information or railway database system. Here the booking, ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಟಿಕೆಟ್ ನ ಬುಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ. So all the data information like PNR number, transaction ID, and train number and quota, whether it is a general or a super class or upper class, and where you are traveling from, and destination information and boarding form, reservation, passenger mobile number. So everything is displaying in this database. So we got to know what do you mean by database. Okay, ಇವಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಏನು ಗೊತ್ತಾಯಿತು, ನಮಗೆ ಡೇಟಾಬೇಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯಿತು. So let us see the history of database. Database is a collection of logically related data, and database management system is a software that is designed to assist and maintenance and utilization of large scale collection of data. Okay, so database is a collection of logically related data is called as a database. Then DBMS, that is database management system, is a software which is designed to assist and maintenance and utilization of large collection of data, that is called as a database management system. Okay, so this database management system came into existence in the year 1960 by Charles. So first this one is introduced by the programmer Charles in the year of 1960, and this integrated data store in which that is called as a first general purpose. So first ಏನು ಇದನ್ನು ಡೆವಲಪ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಅದನ್ನ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ first general purpose DBMS. This is called as the database which is designed by the programmer Charles in the year of 1960, that is called as the first general purpose DBMS. Again in the year of 1960, IBM brought one more application or one more software, that is IMS, Information Management System. Okay. So in the 1960, IBM brought one more application or one more software, that is IMS. So expand form of IMS is the Information Management System. Okay. And again in the year of 1970, Edgar and Cord at IBM came up with a new database, that is called as a RDBMS. That is in the year of 1970, so the programmer Cord designed a new database that is called as the RDBMS. The expand form of RDBMS is a Relational Database Management System. What is the expand form of RDBMS? The expand form of RDBMS is, expand form of RDBMS is Relational Database Management System. That one is designed by Edgar Cord in the year of 1970. Okay. And in the year of 1980, so the new language, that is SQL architecture is came. So the expand form of SQL is Structured Query Language. That is SQL. So Structured Query Language. And again in the year of 1980 to 1990, there were so many advancement in the DBMS softwares like DBMS2, the Oracle, MySQL. So these all are developed in the year of 1980 to 1990, and this DB2 the software was again designed by the company IBM. Okay. See, let us learn some terms of a database management system. First one is the data. As I told, data is a raw fact or a figures or a entity, that is called as a data. Okay. And the example for a data, we can give an example for a data, or data may in the form of a text, audio, images, or any other GIF form or any other format, that is called as a data. Okay. And again one more is a information. So what do you mean by information? So this is also information and this is also a data. So there is a difference between the data and the information. So the processed data is called as the information. What do you mean by information? Information means the processed data is called as the information. Then what do you mean by processed data? So processed data means, let us take one example. So let us take a student database. In the student database, it may contain information about all student. Okay. So in that case, if you want to access the information about a particular student whose register number starts with S11282828. What is information means? Let us take one example, that is student database. In this case, the student database contains the information about the students. Okay. So in that case, the student database may contain the student information like student name, student date of birth, student age, his course and his phone number. In that case, I want to access the student information whose register number may starts with a S112828. Okay. So when we display the information about a student whose register number is S112828, that data is called as a information. Okay. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವೇನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ information ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. So remaining is just a data. So this defining the data and information is dependent on the requirement. So let us take one more example on the information. So in YouTube there are millions of videos are there. Okay. But when we want videos only on a particular topic like a DBMS, in that case videos on the topic or on the subject DBMS or a information for us, but remaining videos are just a data. Okay. So that's why defining the data and information are dependent on identifying the data and information is dependent on our requirement. So this is about a data and information. Simply how to know here, data is a raw fact or a figure or an entity, and information is the processed data is called as a information. And again, as I told, database is a logically collection or logically database is a collection of logically related data that is called as a database. See here, in your examination, these questions may ask for 2 marks. Define data, information, and database. Okay, in that case, you have to define all these terms with a example. So, university database. These are all example for database management system. Sorry, data, information, and database. DBMS. So, DBMS is collection of programs that enables users to create and maintain the database. DBMS andre enri, this is just a collection of programs, or it is a software that enables a user to create and maintain the database is called as a DBMS. And this DBMS is a general purpose software system. It is a general purpose software system that facilitates the process of defining, structuring, manipulating and sharing the database among other users and the applications. So, ಈ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರುವಂಥ ಡೇಟಾಬೇಸ್ನ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ನಾವು ಡಿಫೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರಿಂಗ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಮ್ಯಾನಿಪುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಮತ್ತು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟೆಡ್ ಆಗಿರುವಂಥ ಡೇಟಾನ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಯೂಸರ್ಸ್ ಜೊತೆ ಅಥವಾ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ಸ್ ಜೊತೆ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಶೇರ್. In this general purpose software, we can define, construct and manipulate the database for the various applications. Then what you mean by defining and what you mean by constructing and what you mean by manipulating? Okay. So, defining a database involves specifying the data type, structure and constraints on the data to be stored in the database. Defining data antandre enu antandra, defining the data means defining the data types, ಯಾವ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ ಇರುವಂಥ ವೆದರ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಪ್ ಇರುವಂಥ ಡೇಟಾನ ಡೇಟಾಬೇಸ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ವಿ ಅಂತ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಡಿಫೈನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. Defining the data type, whether we are storing a integer value, whether we are storing a floating type, whether we are storing a character or a string data type. So, we have to define that. And next, and after that we have to specify the structure. In what way we are going to store the data? Okay, we have to specify the. So, after specifying the data type of a value that can be stored in the database, you can also specify the structure, and after that you can also specify the constraints on the data. So, constraints means it can limit the constraints means, so it is a constraints is a something that can limit or that can impose a limit on. So, constraint means, so it is a something that limits or controls what you can do or what you can manipulate on the database. That is called as a constraint. So, constraint means, so we can simply say that these are the rules. So, these are the rules on the tables that can limit the type of a data that we can store in the table, and they are specifying the constraints ensures the accuracy and reliability of the data in the tables. That's why we have to specify the constraints on the tables. And this data definition is stored in the DBMS in the form of a database catalog. This database definition is also called as what, or this is stored in the form of a database catalog. So, viewing this catalog, we can say that what information or what type of data is stored in that table, or this catalog is also, database catalog is also called as a data dictionary, and this data dictionary is called as a metadata. Information about a data is called as a data about a data is called as a metadata. Okay. So, data about a data is called as what? That is called as the metadata, or this this data dictionary or a database catalog is also called as what? This is called as a database metadata. Okay. And next one is a constructing the database. And the constructing the database is the process of storing the data on a some storage medium that is controlled by the DBMS. ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟೋರೇಜ್ ಒಳಗೆ ನಾವೇನು ಮಾಡೋದು ಡೇಟಾಬೇಸ್ನ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ constructing the database anta ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. And next one is manipulating the database means, manipulating includes the function like querying the database, retrieving the specific data, updating the database. So, these are called as a manipulating the database. And when we are update or when we modify the data in the database, that must reflect in the database or it must reflect in the mini world. So, that is called as a database. And next, as I told, the database for a various application. So, an application program accesses the database by sending the queries and requests. Okay. So, ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ನಾವು ಡೇಟಾನ ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬಹುದು ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಒಂದು ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, we can use a one application program to access the database by sending the queries or request. For example, ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಗೂಗಲ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರ್ತಾರ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಲೈಕ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಅ DBMS, notes on DBMS. In that case, you are sending a request to a database. So once it found the data stored or data in the database, so it will display on the web page. So a transaction may cause, so this is also called as a transaction, and this transaction may cause data to be read and some data to be returned to the database. Transaction means this is a one operation that can performed on the database, may cause reader and this transaction may cause read some data from the database or write a data to the database. Okay, this is about some information about a database. And let us see what are the characteristics of a database. See, the number of characteristics of DBMS that distinguish the database from older approaches like a programming with the files. So let us take a traditional file processing system. So in this case, each user defines and implements the files needed for a specific software application like a C program, C++ program, and other programming application. For example, one user create a one grading supporting office. ಒಂದು ಗ್ರೇಡ್ ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಫೈಲ್ ಅನ್ನು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ದಟ್ ಕೀಪ್ಸ್ ದ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದೇರ್ ಗ್ರೇಡ್ಸ್. In that case, we need to write the program to print the student information. And after that, if you want to print the grades of the student, in that case again we need to create a one more program to print the grades of a student. Okay. Again, a second user. There may be a second user. In that case, that user may be a accounting office. That he may create a one file for the accounting office. In that case, he may want to keep the tracks of student fees and their payments. In that case, if you are using a file system, user 1 also need to store the information about all information about the student, and again a second user also need to store all information about the student, like both file may contain the information about the student name, his date of birth, his phone number and his age. So this is called as what? Redundancy. Same information is stored in multiple times, that is called as a redundancy. This is a main disadvantage of a database. Okay, and this that's why the DBMS provides a one easy technique to store or to minimize the redundancy in the database. So that's why we must the system should design a easy database. Why we need to remove the redundancy in the database? Because if there are a duplicate of data, it creates a wastage of, or there may be a waste of storage space. That's why we need to remove the redundancy in the database. And next one is the information stored in the database should allow interactive access to the data to obtain a new information without writing the fresh programs. ನಾವು ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಡೇಟಾನ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಇಂಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟಿವ್ ವೇದೊಳಗೆ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಡೇಟಾನ ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೇರ್ ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಬಿ ನೋ ನ್ಯೂ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್. ನಾವು ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಹೊಸ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ನ ಬರೀದೆ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಡೇಟಾನ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ರೀ, ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ this one is a new, that one is a characteristic of a database. And system should have to design correlate different data to meet a new requirements. That means if a new requirement arises after creating a database, there may be a chance of arriving a new requirement. In that case, it must correlate different data. That means we can add a new requirements as an when requirement, new elements or new entity to the database as an when requirement, requirement arises. And it gives a one independent central repository. So that repository gives the information and meaning of the available data is required. Available iruvanta data ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ information ಅನ್ನು provide ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. And this integrated database will help in understanding the interrelationship between the data stored in a different applications. So it will give the information about the it will give the interrelationship. So there may be a more than one entities in the database. In that case, this whole integrated database will give the interrelationship between the entities or the relationship. And next one is next important characteristic is The stored data should be made available for access by different users simultaneously, that is multi-user. So at the same time, more than one user can access the stored data that must be provided by the database. And it must provide automatic recovery. That means when we are manipulating the data on the database, at the time of manipulating the data, there may be a failure occur. ಅವಾಗ ಏನಾಗಬಹುದು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್ ಆಕರ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು. ಇಟ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಪವರ್ ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಸಾಫ್ಟ್ವೇರ್ ಕ್ರ್ಯಾಶ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್ ಆಕರ್ ಆದರೂ the DBMS or must provide the automatic recovery from the failure. And DBMS contains a automatic backup and recovery procedure if a failure occurs, and it must provide a acid DBMS transaction must satisfy the acid properties. So acid properties means atomicity, and C means consistency, I means isolation, and D means durability. Okay. So atomicity means the entire transaction takes place once or does not happen. ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್, ಐದರ್ let us take a banking transaction. In that case, we are performing a withdrawal. Okay. So that withdrawal must complete, but either it must not complete at all. Complete ಆದ್ರೂ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಥವಾ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಆಗದೇನೆ ಇರಬೇಕು. It must not be in between, half done. Okay. So that is called as the atomicity. That means entire transaction takes place at once, or it doesn't happen. It must not happen at all. That is called as the atomicity. And next one is consistency. So the database must be a consistent and before and after the transaction. Okay. So what do you mean by consistency? It must give a proper information for the users. ಯೂಸರ್ಗೆ ಏನಾಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಬಿಫೋರ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಆದಾಗ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಕನ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಿ ಇರುವಂತ ಅಥವಾ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇರುವಂತ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಅನ್ನು ಕೊಡಬೇಕು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಕನ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. So let us take, if we withdraw, before withdrawing the amount, it must give a information, it must give a whole balance. Okay. So if we withdraw 5,000 rupees from our account, so before withdrawing our balance is, let us take 10,000. After withdrawing, it must be reduced 5,000. So after withdrawal transaction, it must update the data stored in the database. That is called as a consistency. And next one is the isolation. So if you are performing the multiple transactions, ಏನಾದರೂ multiple transaction perform ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ವಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, those transactions occur independently without interface. That is multi-user. Okay. And next one is, it must provide a security of a data. Unauthorized people must not access the data stored in the database. That is called as a security. For example, your bank account database must not be accessed by any other account holder in the same bank. That is called as a security. And next one is a durability. So durability means the changes of successful transaction occurs even if the system failure occurs. Even though ನಮ್ಮ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್ ಆಕರ್ ಆದ್ರೂ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಸಕ್ಸಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಬೇಕು, ಡೇಟಾಬೇಸ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಡೇಟಾ ಏನಾಗಬೇಕ್ರಿ, ಅಪ್ಡೇಟ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಡ್ಯೂರಾಬಿಲಿಟಿ. ಸೊ we will discuss all these properties in the concept transaction. Okay. ನಮ್ಗೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಅಪ್ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಏನು ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. In that case, I will discuss in deeply about these properties. Okay. And next one is it must reduce the complexity between the relationship, and this database or DBMS must support the manipulation and processing the data stored in the database. It must provide the security, and we can view the database from different viewpoints according to the requirements. ನಮಗೆ ಏನು ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಬೇಕೋ ಆ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಡೇಟಾಬೇಸ್ ಒಳಗಿಂದ ವ್ಯೂನ ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, let us take a Flipkart. In the Flipkart, I want to purchase some electronic device. In that case, or I want to purchase a mobile. So in that case, it must display the information only about mobiles, not about any other clothing information. So according to the requirement, it must provide the views of the data stored in the database. So these are the important characteristics of the DBMS. Or we can say that we can summarize we can list the main characteristics of the database approach versus the file processing. ನಾವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಆದಂಥ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ಸ್ನ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಡಿಫೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ವರ್ಸಸ್ ಫೈಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸಿಂಗ್, those are self-describing nature of the database, insulation between the program and data, and data abstraction. And next third one is the supporting a multiple views of data. That one as I told, it must provide a different viewpoints according to the requirements. And next one is the sharing of data and multi-user transaction processing. So these are the important characteristics of a database approaches versus file processing. Those are self-describing in nature, insulation between a program and data, and data abstraction. And it must third one is it must support the multiple views of data, and fourth one is the sharing of data and multi-user transaction processing. These are the important characteristics of a database. So let us see the advantages of DBMS. What are the advantages of DBMS? So first one is a DBMS. This is a here I listed some main advantages of DBMS. First one is a data independence. So data independence means, let us take one application program. So this application program should be independent as possible from the details of the data representation and data storage. That means ಯಾವ ಒಂದು application program ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರ್ತೀವೋ to access the data stored in the database, it must be as much as possible, it must be independent as possible as much. That is called as a database data independence. So in DBMS, or DBMS can provide an abstract view of a data to insulate the application code from some in details of a data. For example, we need not to know the what kind of data we are accessing. That is called as a data independence. And next advantage is efficient data access. So in this case, DBMS utilizes the varieties of sophisticated techniques. DBMS it is going to use some varieties of sophisticated techniques to read and write the data or to access the data stored in the database. That is efficiently requirement. And next one is data integrity and security. So in this data integrity and security, if the data is always accessed through DBMS, that DBMS must enforce the integrity constraint on the data. Okay. So integrity constraint na ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ it must provide the integrity constraints on the data. That is called as a data integrity. Okay. For example, inserting the salary information for an employee. Okay, that is also data integrity. And in that case, DBMS checks the department budget that must not exceed. That is called as a data integrity. So if we are updating the salary of an employee, in that case it must check the department budget that should not or that must not exceed. That is called as a data integrity. And after that it must provide the security to the data stored in the database, or that must provide a access controls who can access the data stored in the database. That is called as a security. And next one is a data administration. When several users shares the data, in ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ we can share the data among the several users. In that case, centralizing the administration of data can offer a significant improvements. Okay. So this is about a data administration. And next one is a control access or concurrent. Next one is a concurrent access and crash recovery. As we already know about this, concurrent access means more than one users can access the same data at the same time. That is called as a concurrent access. And crash recovery means if any failure occurs, the transaction must recover the data. That is called as a crash recovery or automatic crash recovery. That must be that is provided by the DBMS. Okay. And next one is the reduced application development time. So DBMS provides a reduced application development time, and it controls the database redundancy. That means by using a DBMS we can remove the duplicate data stored on the database. Database ಒಳಗೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಮಲ್ಟಿಪಲ್ ಅಥವಾ ಡುಪ್ಲಿಕೇಟ್ ಇರುವಂಥ ಡೇಟಾ ಇತ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ರೀ, ಅದನ್ನು ಈಸಿಲಿ ರಿಮೂವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ data redundancy, removing the redundancy. And data sharing, so we can share the data among the multiple users. That is the main advantage. And this is the maintenance of data stored in the database is very easy by using a database. If we store the information in the file, it become a very complex. Okay, so maintenance become a very complex, but data stored in the database, it will be easy for a maintenance. And reduces time. If you want to manipulate the data stored on the database, it reduces the time, but if we store the data in the files, it takes more time to manipulate the data stored in the database. And DBMS provides a backup from the software crash. If any other software crash occurs during a transaction, in that case DBMS provides a backup. And as I told, multiple user interface. So these are the important advantages of database management system. And next one is the functions of DBMS. So already I discussed about these functions of DBMS. Those are data definitions, and these data definition may include defining and modifying and recording the structures like a type, data type, size of the field, and various constraints to be satisfied by the data to be stored in each field. So everything is specified in the data definition, and this data definition is also called as what? This is called as a catalog or a metadata. And next one is a data manipulations. So once the data stored in or once the data structure is defined, and the next step is next operations need to be performed are inserting the data, modified or deleted. That inserted data can be modified or deleted, or new data can be inserted, and these functions which performs these operations are parts of a DBMS, and these functions can handle the, so to perform the data manipulation of data stored on the database, we can use some SQL commands or any other database query language to manipulate the data stored on the database. And next one is a data recovery, and next one is a data security and integrity. So DBMS provides some modules which handles the security and integrity of the data stored in the application. In database ಒಳಗೆ ಡೇಟಾ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀವೋ ಆ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡಿರುವಂಥ ಡೇಟಾ ಸೆಕ್ಯೂರಿಟಿ ಮತ್ತು ಇಂಟಿಗ್ರಿಟಿನ ಮೇಂಟೈನ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ DBMS ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ರೀ, ಸಮ್ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ಸ್ನ ಆರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಯೂಲ್ಸನ್ನ ಆರ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ನ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತಾ. Using that modules, we can maintain integrity and security of the data stored in the database. And next one is data recovery and concurrency, as I told. So recovery of the data after system failure and the concurrent access of records by multiple users is also handled by the DBMS. Multiple users can access the same data stored on the database, and concurrent, that is called as a concurrency, and the system recovering the data after system failure is called as a data recovery. Both are handled by the database management system. And next one is the performance. So optimizing the performance of the queries is so next one is a performance. So the performance means DBMS is going to optimize the performance of the queries. This one is the important function of the DBMS. So these are the important functions of database management system. It will be asked for 5 marks. Explain functions of DBMS. Okay. In the previous slide we discussed advantages of DBMS. So it may that concept may also ask for a 5 marks. Explain the advantages of DBMS. And again, if one concept is having an advantage, it may also have the disadvantage. Okay. In the same question, they may also ask the disadvantage of a DBMS. In that case, you have to explain both the advantages and disadvantage of the DBMS. Okay. So next one is the disadvantages of DBMS. So we already saw the advantages of DBMS, and there are many advantages of DBMS. Including this, DBMS also have so many disadvantages. So see, what are the disadvantages of DBMS? Here I listed some disadvantages of DBMS. First one is the cost of hardware and software. This is the first disadvantage of the database management system, because it is a mandatory to have a high speed processor and also have a large memory space. Because of nowadays there is a large amount of data in every field which we need to store safely and with the security. That's why we need to pay more money for a hardware and software maintenance. And next one is the cost, and next one is the size. if we want to store a huge amount of data, in that case what we need a huge amount of memory space. That's why it also need a so much of memory space to store the data. And one more thing we can say here that as the complexity and breadth of the functionality increases, DBMS extremely increases the price of the softwares, like occupying in a megabytes of the disk space. So the cost is also increases. And next one is complexity. So as the requirement increases, complexity in the database is also increases, because it increases the number of relations in the database. And high impact failure. So there may be a chance of occurring a failure during the performing a transaction. That is, there may be a server failure, or maybe any other physical ಎರರ್ ಮೇ ಆಕರ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಪವರ್ ಫೇಲ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಆದರೂ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಲೈಕ್ ಥಂಡರ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಮ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಅರ್ಥಕ್ವೇಕ್. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಅಫೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ದ failure of a transaction. So that's why there may be a higher impact of failure during performing or during a transaction. So these are the disadvantages of DBMS. So in the next class you must submit an assignment on the topics, list the advantages and disadvantages of DBMS, and after that, and second question is explain the characteristics of DBMS approach versus file processing approach. How to write this and submit by tomorrow. If you have any doubts, you can ask.